All right, we're ready.
Well, now I gotta do my business.
Can we do the Pledge of Allegiance? Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we start, if everyone can silence their cell phones, appreciate it. All right, do the roll call.
Ms. Fresco, Dr. Queen, Ms. Nero.
Here.
Mr. Smithing, Ms. Towner.
Yes, here.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. Hitch.
Here. Okay, we have some recognitions.
The following students participated in the Family, Career, Community Leaders of America, FCCLA, state competition in April. Congratulations to Tatum Bruno,
Tatum here.
Carly Delmonico.
Carly here.
Come on up, come on up. That's how you get recognized. Stay up till your whole group comes up, okay?
And then go ahead and stand over there. Thank you.
Sarah Gentile, Stephanie Gonzalez, Emily Graham, Sylvia Harvin, Zoe Jacquat,
Congratulations, Alex.
Rixie Jimenez, Alexandra Kushniers, Samantha McDonald, Cassidy McClernand, Alyssa Monty, Elizabeth Murphy, Kara Nedvar, Autumn Racevich Schwer, Alyssa Schwartz, Sabrina Tawberry,
Congratulations, Sabrina.
and Erica Samariapa.
Did you say that right, Erica?
Close up?
Yeah. Is that better? Yeah,
If I did, Smetanka.
Girls, did you get your places yet?
No, not yet. Okay.
So tell us what you did there.
Tell us what each of you
Tell us what
participated
you
in.
did at the state competition.
I participated in the frosting cake decorating at
You didn't bring any for us?
No, I'm sorry.
I did cake decorating as well.
Oh, two of you. Write their names down.
I did apparel construction.
Oh, wait, one more time?
Apparel.
Apparel construction?
What'd you
Okay.
make?
I made this dress.
Oh,
I did frosting cake decorating too.
Oh.
Okay.
Kristen, I think you need to work on that a little. They need to
Thank you.
take care of us.
Well,
Next time you don't get a
Congratulations.
certificate till we
Thank
get
you
a
for participating.
All right, we're going to reports, Student Association.
Is this the last one, or is this the second to last one?
No, this is the last one for us.
This is the last one?
So, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Are you both seniors?
Seniors?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
And the rest of exec board is also seniors, but unfortunately they couldn't be here tonight because of random, most sports
They're not still on
conflicts.
prom weekend, are they?
No, no, no.
Just checking.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for the month of April, we started our annual Pop Tops collection, and on Friday is actually our final weigh-in. We haven't had really that good of numbers, but a lot of teachers decided to hoard them until the last week. I don't know why, but they just like doing that. And then also we have our elections for exec board tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, and that'll be so basically whoever wins that will be here at the next meeting.
So we'll
And
meet
then-
the new board in May or in August, do you think?
In May
In
probably,
May.
yeah.
Okay.
And there's 2 positions that are contested, but the rest is already set.
Okay.
And then also we have we're gonna be awarding our pizza party for Spirit Friday, Miss McGrath's 5th hour one, and we'll be doing that in the coming weeks.
Awesome.
And then we helped make a banner for All In for Ethan. It's like hanging up already. So this Friday is his last day of school for this year. So Best Buddies is kind of doing a lot of like stuff to like welcome, like not welcome, but like just like give him a good vibe before his surgery. So it's been good. And then we had prom this past weekend, which was great.
Where was it?
Germania Place in Chicago. Yeah. I cannot say enough
Everybody had
good
fun.
things. I had a great time. And then, so we just wanted to thank you. I know we've been coming to board meetings for like 2 years now, and it's just a really great opportunity for us to kind of represent the students and like get a chance to tell you if there was like an issue that we were having or anything. So thank you, and hopefully you guys continue to allow students to have this opportunity.
Have you both decided on your destinations for next year?
Yes.
What you're gonna be doing? Go ahead.
I'm going to University of Illinois, studying actuarial science.
Oh, very good. Good luck.
And Max is also an Evans Scholar.
Oh,
Yeah.
congratulations.
And then I'm going to Michigan State to study business and music education.
Outstanding, Caitlin. So Spartan and the Illini, you guys will be seeing each other in conference rivalry.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. You both have done an outstanding job representing the Student Association. And I know the board really enjoys hearing these reports. So please report back to the new elected officers that the board really does enjoy seeing the students and hearing from the students what's going on in the school and their perspectives of things going on in the school. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
congratulations. Best of luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Tell people they can.
Gary can.
You know, those who got recognized, if you feel like you don't want to stick around for the rest of the board meeting, feel free to,
This is a good time to run.
good time to leave now before we get into the details.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome to stay. Thanks so much.
This is a public open meeting. You are welcome to stay if you so choose.
We're all business from now on.
Scott, can you close that door so we stop hearing the radio?
All right, President's report. I don't have anything out there, so we'll go to the superintendent.
Superintendent's report, Curriculum Advisory Council, Facilities Advisory Council, and the Finance Advisory Council. I am working with Mary Ann to schedule those three advisory councils for the month of May. The Curriculum Council will be looking at some dual credit and dual enrollment opportunities to try to offer different opportunities for the students that may be more interested in going a career pathway model than necessarily going to a four-year school. Facilities Advisory Council, I'm going to try to get them together in May so that we can update them on the life safety items that have been completed with Joel and some individual subcontractors and what we're planning to complete this summer. And then the Finance Advisory Council, Scott will be presenting his tentative budget to the Finance Advisory Council so that the board can have their first read at the COW of May and approve it in June. Policy is up for recommended approval for tonight. I had one additional change that I'll point out to the board, but other than that, the board has seen this press packet for the last two meetings.
Okay. Principal's report.
The day of service, which is hosted by the PTO, is this upcoming Saturday. We're really excited because one, we'll have great weather, and two, we have over 350 students that have already signed up that are planning on being there along with parent and staff volunteers to beautify the communities as well as RB. And a huge thanks to the PTO we saw present at the last board meeting, as well as our volunteers and the student committee who really took the leadership on a lot of the different logistics for this event. Advanced placement testing begins May 7th and lasts for 2 weeks, so it butts up pretty close to final exams this year. But students have been busy studying and preparing for the exams. We typically receive them in late summer, and then we share the results with you in the fall. We have some upcoming building-wide events. We have a lot with the end of the year, but some that are important to note. We have Senior Awards Night, which is Wednesday, May 2nd at 7 p.m. to recognize seniors who have received department and school-wide awards. Students who have earned an award received an invitation to the event. And then we have a quick practice after school just to run through things with students. The Apollo Awards is coming up. It's May 17th at 7 p.m. And this event is the awards night for the music program to recognize all of their hard work and dedication throughout the year. They also put on a great concert and have a lot of different performances at that event too. And then lastly, if you are a senior parent, you should have received a senior bulletin via email. It's also on our website, and then we also handed them out to all seniors and talked to them in all of their English classes. So that has a lot of important information about senior awards, the senior picnic, which is Friday, May 18th, as well as graduation, which is May 25th at 6:30 in the gym. And so I would encourage a senior parent who hasn't looked at that to take a look at that. It also has some important information about final transcripts. So, and that's it.
And at Senior Awards Night, the board members are just in the audience if they will recognize them in attendance, but most of them are just either if they're there with their students or, correct?
Correct.
And if you could, I'd ask that you update the board just in case they're not all up to speed on the events for this Friday in general. I know you can't go into much detail, but the All In for Ethan.
Yeah, so a lot of the events are a surprise. So
That's what I said. All right.
So Ethan is one of our students who has Gans disease, and All In for Ethan is the name of his foundation. And so a lot of the events that we have are planned to raise money. He has an important surgery, I believe, which is on May 1st. And so he will not return for the rest of the school year. So he'll be recovering, and so the students wanted to have a surprise send-off for him on Friday. So that will be his last day for this school year.
And it's just the outgoing support from the staff, the students, it's really good to see for the culture. So it's a good cause.
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on to Chief Financial Officer, did you two come in for a recognition? Or was your job? No. Just all right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you here for class?
For class?
For student association.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
Do you want to give a speech to the board?
Oh, no.
No? You're okay? You're just observing tonight? Okay.
All right. Chief Financial Report.
All right, good evening. I would like to highlight the March 2018 financials. If we look at Board Book page 10, I'd like to go over the monthly financial report. This represents 75% of our fiscal year. Total monthly revenue for the month of March was $9.4 million. Out of that $9.4 million, real estate taxes accounted for roughly $8.6 million. General state aid was $160,000, and interest income was distributed in March. That accounted for $186,000. On the expenditure side, total monthly expenditures for the month of March was $2.4 million. Out of the $2.4 million, salary and benefits was $1.5 million. Capital projects, we did make final payment on the 2015 project of roughly $400,000. And out-of-district tuition for the month of March was $145,000. Our operating fund balances at the end of March is $19.6 million, but I want to make sure that everyone realizes that $3 million of it is restricted for capital improvement and land acquisition. Moving on to the financial statements ending the 9 months. If we look at Board Book page 11, this shows our beginning fund balance as of July 1, plus our revenue minus our expenditures. And in the ending balance column, that shows the fund balances for all funds as of the end of March. If we move on to Board Book page 12, and focus on the revenue side. If we look at the education fund, the operation fund, and the transportation fund, and look to the far right to see where we're at with the percentage-wise, I am expecting additional property taxes to come in this next quarter. So I'm anticipating that our education revenue will be over 100%. If we go to the operations and maintenance, we're sitting at 93%. We should get an additional corporate property replacement tax payment from the state coming in the next quarter, which should bring it very close to 100% of budget. And under transportation, I'm expecting one more transportation payment to come in from the state, which will bring it very close to 100% or over 100%.
Working cash is over because of the $3 million in working cash, correct?
With the issuance of the bond.
So is that why it looks like it's 111 over?
Yes.
Okay.
If we move to board book page 13 and look at the expenditure side, Ed fund, 75% of budget. That's very good. It's tracking right at the 75%. Barring any major expenditures that come up, it should come in right at budget or better. Same thing goes for operation and maintenance. Hopefully we won't have any major repairs or something that needs to be replaced within the next quarter, so it should come in right at budget. Our transportation fund, depending on if our athletic teams or clubs in this final quarter here qualify for state, we could see some fluctuation in the costs there. And then ultimately, we do have some high transportation costs in special ed. So we got to keep track of that. But it should come in, barring what we have, right at what's at budget.
And the extra 120 in the working cash is to when we did the shift from life safety to working cash to cover capital expenses?
Where are you at here?
On expenditures, last working cash, fund 70, 425 was the budget, 541.
Yes, that was the additional 70,000, and then there was a bond issuance cost that was in it to account for those money. There was the 70,000 made in this month, or last month's, to cover the last payment. So that's where it's reflected.
Okay.
Moving on to the revenue expense report. There were questions submitted. In board book, it was page, I believe, 6 and 7.
8 and 9 is where Mary Ann put them in, so she put them in before the report.
Okay.
Or 7 and 8, I'm sorry.
7 and 8.
7 and 8.
Okay. Just to run through these quickly, all the prior year and current year taxes that are out there do look a little off. You'll see 108% and roughly 95%. 108 in the prior year and 95% in the current year in all the levies that we have out there. I just want to remind everybody that we did have taxes that came in from FY17 that came in and were distributed in FY18 in July. That accounted for roughly, I would say, around 300,000. I am anticipating more taxes to come in, so you may see an increase in the current year levy line, hopefully push closer to 100%, but that's all dependent on tax distributions released from the Cook County.
What are we budgeted at?
It's budgeted at 98.5%.
Okay. So every 1% is roughly $100,000?
That is correct.
So we're hoping at the minimum it's 3.5% before the end of the year, correct?
That is correct in the last quarter. If you look on, there was a question about the interest on it. I did put in the CFO report a treasurer's, from the Township Treasurer report showing our interest earned on investment. So there will be some accounts that look dramatically over in all funds. I basically budgeted on a 3-year historical within the pool that the treasurer had, and this year they increased the amount that was pooled. And there were some other factors that I'll discuss later in the CFO report that impacted the increase in the interest earned. Registration fees in March, they do look over budget on that. We did have a very good month of collecting fees because this was prior to prom. which really helped out. However, these fees still need to be distributed into the correct student fee accounts. Special education, private facility, and special ed room and board. The district received payments from FY17 and FY18. Under the Tech Enhancing Education Grant, this is the CTEI and Perkins. FY17 grant money was received in FY18, which is why it's showing over budget. Corporate property replacement tax is under budget. I am expecting the state to release one final payment on that. Hopefully it's around $130,000. However, I'm not sure if the state's going to actually distribute it. It is very unpredictable with that. On the expenditure side of the revenue expense, there was a question in regards to capital outlay and wellness. It previously explained at the February board meeting, the department purchased new equipment for the wellness center using student fees to cover the cost. To accurately account for the cost of the capital over $1,000, it has to be itemized under capital, and money was available in the student supply account.
So we'll have a deposit into a revenue side to offset that expense, but
Yes,
it looks,
the student fees has a revenue side, and then we also have the expense side.
okay.
Do you have a list of all these special funds you have that in our mind we use for particular purposes? We talked about this with the, the federal, what are the two, Title I and Title II.
Title I, Title II.
How you decide what you're going to do with the revenue there. And, this comes up with, we use this fee to use this. I mean, I think you should let the board know all these kind of special set-aside ideas you have, what you use funds for.
Okay.
So Kristen, when you present the board the fees list, I think that happened a month or two ago. The final student fees, course fees.
Course fees go in the fall, so those were in October. They were presented to the board.
Okay, so I would check like under the PE course fee if there, so it shows that a portion of that fee is being assigned to help replace equipment and replacement cycle for fitness rooms and.
Our past practice for fees has been to provide a rationale for any fee that's increased or decreased, but we can add the detail for the other fees as well for next year.
Just so I think that would answer some of these questions.
Right.
Keep going, Scott. You're on the, they can read the answers to you. Is there any specific ones you want to highlight in the rest of the expenditures?
Yeah, the school safety liaison, we did pay a portion of the salary out of a grant, the Title IV grant. And it was submitted for reimbursement. That should be coming in. And some of the hard stuff to budget for is when you have to amend the grants and you have the original amendment, and then the next thing you know, you're light in one line item. So you're always kind of jockeying around with the amounts. So sometimes there will be a difference between what the original budget was compared to the expenditure. Just a reminder to the board is all these grants, though, are reimbursable. So we have to spend first and then put in for reimbursement. The main thing with the grants is you don't want to leave any money on the table.
If you don't use it, you lose it, right?
That is correct.
You're going to roll it up so I can read the last line, would you?
I would like to highlight the telephone one. This was a budget oversight. There was an increase in the internet charge and an alarm line charge. It has been addressed by using the phone consultant and getting the new pricing of what the internet is and factored it all in. And also our new phone system will help with that for our FY19 budget.
And the oversight was just we didn't update the numbers as we continued to increase the bandwidth, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so that will be addressed in the FY19 budget?
Yes.
And field trips, are we taking more field trips than usual this year? Is that why the count looks like it's over?
We have taken quite a few field trips, but we also have a lot of contests that the kids are attending with it. As they're qualifying for various things throughout the course of the school day, they're going and attending and competing. And that's one of the reasons that it is a little bit over budget on that.
Are we 6,000 over a $15,000 budget line item?
It says 3,000.
3,000.
I know what it says, but if you look at the line, it says the unexpected is unexpended is minus 6,000, which includes an encumbrance of 3,000, and the budget was 15,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we're
It is
40%
over.
over budget.
Yes.
So did you under budget this, or did you, is that something we need to look at a 3-year historical? Do you need
It's
to meet with
probably-
Kristen and her staff to figure out how many
It's
field
probably
trips?
under budgeted. I will work through Kristen and her staff to determine.
I asked the question for a different reason. When I asked, why are we over? At some point, now we think we're going to have a surplus, and we thought we were going to have a deficit, right? Appears we probably will have a surplus now, but at some point, if the board approved a budget of 15,000 based on what the administrator presented, at some point you might have to say no. We don't have money for that. And instead of just saying, with 15,000 we made a mistake, now we're going to spend an extra 6,000, and the year's not over.
No, I
assume
understand,
this
but I
is
also
just
don't
a
want to
waiver.
take away any opportunity for students to gain educational experience on a field trip or a competition. I think that's a huge piece, and I understand the thought process behind here's what was budgeted, and you got to pay closer attention to it. But if something comes up, I think it's very valuable that they go on these trips.
I agree. You would tell a kid no if they qualify for something that oh, sorry, we can't afford to send you?
I'm sure there's hundreds of field trips available that we could send people on that we didn't this year, aren't there? We don't send them on everything that's available, do we?
That it goes through a whole process of getting approved.
Yeah, but I'm saying, you pick and choose already to some extent, don't you?
Kristen, does the building administration deny field trips?
We deny a field trip typically only if there's not a connection to the curriculum, which typically they wouldn't request it if there wasn't a benefit for being out of the classroom. And then sometimes we have blackout dates. So around AP testing, around SAT testing, we have certain times of the year where we feel it's important for students to come, but those are the blackout date would be the only reason, and we do make exceptions for those as well, depending on the field trip.
So I think what needs to happen is the building administration work a little closer with Scott on the budgeting for next year.
Well, and families contribute to field trips, so I don't think we're getting spend thrifty with field trips, because when the students go somewhere, the kids are buying their tickets. I think we may have gone to state or won some athletic competitions we just didn't anticipate
There's a
this year.
separate budget for that.
I think we need to do some more planning and preparing when we do the budget.
Well, let me answer the question I was asked by two. Yes. As we go through a period in the future where we are predicting to have deficit spending, at some point we would have to say no, we don't have the money for it. Unless you're going to give up something else in exchange, or you're going to, again, one of the problems with this way this data is laid out, which hopefully you can fix with the new system you're going to get, is we don't track the net effect if it's an expense item and there's a revenue item for the same thing. So I can't tell from here. I presume we don't collect the exact amount that we're, whatever the cost of transportation for a field trip. We don't make our students pay for them all the time, do we? Or the whole cost?
For transportation?
Yeah.
No.
I didn't think so. And we can't tell from here. But yes, we started this year predicting a deficit, and that's why I keep asking questions. It seems like there's an improvement, and we're not going to have a deficit. But based on the numbers we have, we expect to have a deficit next year, and the year after, and the year after that. And part of what you have to manage is say, yes, here's what you asked for, here's what you budgeted. If you're going to spend more money in that line item, you have to take it away from somewhere else. You can't just say, the whole budget to a certain extent is for the benefit of the students. So, why is a field trip transportation item more important than some other item in the budget?
Well, Tim, I think this is also a board discussion too, just like we have administration come to us and ask, we'd like to run a class with less than 20 students. I don't think one board member can tell administration, you gotta say no. I think we, as a board, might instruct administration to come to us and say, well, here's some field trips that we think are valuable that will go over budget. Would you approve them? I don't think we want to send that message that we're going to tell Scott to start saying no to these trips or these competitions right now.
I think before we get it, making it a board issue, not a board issue, I think there's some work that can be done between the CFO and the administration to lay some things out a little better, so that when Scott, we talked a little bit today, when he presents his financial officer's report, he could alert the board ahead of time to say, hey, we're getting close to being out of field trip money.
Yeah.
And I know there's still these field trips in the hopper. Yeah. So Scott's got to do a little more work on his side in his reporting and on the budgeting and working with the administration so that they have an understanding what their budget is. So I don't think we have to say no to anything right now.
No, I'm not suggesting that.
And so, but you're right, it would have been helpful to bring to the board, if Scott was bringing to the board, hey, we're at budget or at the end of budget, and I still want to approve these 5 field trips. At least the board's aware.
Right.
And at that point, if the board wants to make a motion to vote or not vote, or to proceed as usual, then we can. So
I think my point is really not, it just happens to be this line item. It could have been some other line item. I was looking at the ones that were over budget. And my point is, when the administration, and again, nobody's perfect on a budget, and there's a whole pre-bill transportation, there's a ton of line items on it. So, you could say like the other one, maybe a different line item, you're going to spend less. I can't tell from here. But my concern is that we have to start thinking about, we should either stick with the budget, or if we're going to have to spend over on this line item, what line item are we going to not spend on, so that we're properly managing our funds if we are going to be deficit spending. But, again, no, I'd like to see kids go on field trips, but I like to see a lot of the other things that are going on in the budget too, right?
Do we look at these departmentally?
In terms of
Because this is not in a departmental budget.
no, it's general.
It's general.
we used,
And so can like one department be spending $7,000, another one spending 0, another one spending 0, another one spending 8, and if it's broken up by departmental, they're given a certain amount of monies based off historical and said, this is
Your piece of the pie.
your piece of the pie.
we used to do it that way. We ran into more issues that way. And so it was put into one transportation account for field trips. Every year we do look at the end of the year, we do a field trip analysis of, here are the different departments, the number of field trips they went on, and the cost associated with
But
that.
how are we budgeting now, the dollars for the field trips? We just said, okay, historically, we spent $15,000, we're gonna spend $15,000 again, and so therefore, you don't have anyone accountable by department. And so the department will keep asking and asking until we say no. All I'm suggesting is, as opposed to maybe doing it so with some sense of departmental and still having the flexibility of going over. I'm not saying shut them down, but you also can get a picture of.
Well, as it makes sense, Gary, is the math department going to take field trips?
Yeah.
I was just going to say that.
assume
In
they
some
do.
departments, it may be more.
History and English probably take more than.
Right.
Right.
Right, well,
So
then
it's
if
not
that's
gonna
the
be equal
case,
across
that's the
the board.
case, that's
Right.
fine, they're gonna take it, but,
Right.
but if the department came and said, I'm gonna spend $15,000 in field trips, and now they're coming and asking for 25.
I think Scott and Kristen can figure this out.
Right.
And I think there needs to be a little more in-depth before we do the budget, when we do these monthly reports. Right?
That's helpful, thank you.
That's all, that was all of them,
Yeah.
right, Scott?
Yep.
Yes, on revenue expense. Moving on, you will see the month-ending summary of the activity accounts. 2 accounts were in the negative, Illinois Virtual School and Alumni Achievement account. Hopefully, with the fees collected in March and April here, that'll take care of the virtual school. The Alumni Achievement one, we're working on trying to get that down to 0. Moving on, after the student activity account, you have a third quarter building rental paid invoice report. For the third quarter, the district had $12,335 of profit for using the facility. If you look at year-to-date, the net profit year-to-date on the pie chart right after the monthly one, $36,838.
I want to change the word profit to surplus. Government agencies can't make a profit.
Okay. Alright. Just showing the net position on that.
I understand.
And then the last report is a summary from the township treasurer on the interest earned. Couple of the things that increased it was our pool was higher than what the historical was, and the Fed rate increased, causing the earnings to be higher than what they've been the past couple years.
And so the district benefit by how much, Scott?
Roughly 68,000 more than what was budgeted out there.
What's the period, so what's the period that we're getting the interest payment for?
It's
I
from-
looked at the report, but.
It's from March 2017 through February
So that's.
18.
And then they hold the interest for the.
And then they
we
put
only
it-
get paid once a year?
Yes. And they distribute it in March.
Anything else, Scott? Any other questions submitted?
No other questions were submitted.
All right, it's a chance for visitors to make comments. Look out there, does anyone, visitors want to make any comments? All right, we'll move on then. I will not read the long dissertation. Discussion items. At this point, Board of Education members may request any additional discussion items. Looking to my left. All right?
Yes.
Okay, Laura? What would you like to discuss? What additional items?
I just want to make a comment on prom, and maybe we can have a little better plan for the pictures. When are we going to discuss it, at the end?
I don't know if that's kind of more of a school issue than a board issue.
Yeah.
Well, it's both, for one. Well, when are we going to discuss it? Is now appropriate, or?
Not really.
No.
No, it would be at the end, is what we
At
did.
the end,
Right
okay.
before we
So
go
at the
into
end, I
plans.
think this is appropriate because it's our relationship with our, our other, with our police departments and everything else, so.
All right,
Okay.
we'll add it on at the end. All right, old business?
Old business, press policy 97, the board reviewed it. There were no additional board comments submitted. I did add one policy, and I'm looking for,
Doesn't say that.
on 6:315, there was one additional policy added because we had a case arise this past week. And so I wanted the board to see this. I think it's important that we amend this to the policy. Mary Ann, can you pull it up? This is not a change from the press policy, it's from the administration. And if you look at the screen above, we do have some 8th grade students that will be taking courses at Riverside Brookfield as 8th graders next year. And the one thing that we felt was missing is if one of those courses has a course fee, we need to make clear that those kids would be responsible to pay the course fee just like a current student does. Also, we do not provide transportation, so it would be the responsibility of either the elementary school or the parents to provide their own transportation to and from the high school. So as I stated, we were finalizing some student schedules, and Kristen identified that our policy wasn't clear on this, and so I worked with the administration to bring this recommendation to you. This is not something that was in Press Plus. I apologize if that was not in the background sheet to point out 6:315.
Oh, no, I thought you meant you added it since the package.
Oh, so all I wanted,
read your package.
I think the important is just that,
Makes sense.
they should realize if they're taking a high school course, they're responsible for those high school fees. We had talked about the registration fee. These kids are our general registration fee is $200. However, we probably would not make them pay that, but we would make them pay possibly the tech fee if they need to use our Chromebooks, or the general tech fee of $30, for using the internet and some of the services that we have to provide. So this just generalizes that we'll assess it on a situation basis, but those students would be responsible for fees.
Makes sense.
Okay?
Resolved, the Board of Education, Township High School District 2A, Cook County, Illinois hereby approves IASB Press Plus Policy Issue 97 as presented in the April 24, 2018 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Sierra?
Yes.
Mr. Smithing?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes. Okay. New business?
New business, this is annual, some things we need to do annually. This is a first read. Attached would be the recommended school board meeting calendar for next year. I kept it. Mary Ann and I went through this based off of the district calendar the Board of Education approved in January. I kept it the second and fourth Tuesday, which has been the practice for the last 7 years that I have been here, and I believe for several years prior to my arrival. We did make sure that there was only one meeting in July and August until school starts back up. There are committee of the whole meetings in September and October, so there's 2 opportunities there. And then there's the committee of the whole meetings in January, February, April, and May. We did not have 2 in March because of spring break. We do not have 2 in November and December due to Thanksgiving and the Christmas holiday season. And in June, we only do 1 because a lot of the administration and staff need to take their vacations through June, July, and August.
And there's one additional because it's an election year, right?
Correct. And that would be the Canvas organizational meeting on April 5th, or April 30th, which is the 5th Tuesday of April. And we pushed that as far from the election as we're allowed to, so there's time to get the official results.
Resolved, Board of Education, Township High School District 2A, Cook County, Illinois hereby affirms the regular and committee of the whole meeting dates in the Canvas organizational date for the 2018-2019 school board calendar as presented in the April 24, 2018 board agenda packet.
Second.
Go for the vote.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Sierra?
Yes.
Mr. Smithing?
Yeah.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Next is the authorization of the signatories for Impress Account Financial. The Chief Financial and Superintendent are recommended as signatories for the Impress Account and financial reports. This is a formality that is done yearly.
Resolved, the Board of Education, Township High School District 2A, Cook County, Illinois hereby affirms the authorization of Chief Financial Officer and the Superintendent as signatories for impressed account and financial reports as presented in the April 24, 2018 board agenda packet.
Second.
Go for the vote.
Ms. Sierra?
Yes.
Mr. Smithing?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes. Next.
The authorization of signatories for the board, and in addition to the president and the secretary. The president is Mr. Gritchen, the secretary is Ms. Nardi, and this author provides, in the absence of the president, the vice president as a signatory for the board.
Resolved, the Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois hereby affirms the authorization of Vice President as a signatory for the board in addition to the President and Secretary as presented in the April 24, 2018 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Go for the vote.
Mr. Smithing?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Sierra?
Yes.
Mr. Gritchen?
Yes.
Designation of the district newspapers. Again, a yearly thing, and this just basically identifies what the school board and school district recognizes their local newspaper when we have to post things regarding budgets, levies, bidding opportunities, etc. And so we use the Suburban Life and the Landmark newspaper.
Resolved, the Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois hereby designates the Suburban Life newspaper and the Landmark newspaper as the newspapers of record for District 208 as presented in the April 24, 2018 Board Agenda Packet.
Take a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? No? Okay. Go for the vote.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Sierra?
Yes.
Mr. Smithing?
Yes.
Mr. Gritchen?
Yes. Okay.
District Depository. This is done again annually. The board is asked to appoint the depository of record for District 208. It is First American Bank in Riverside.
Resolved, the Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois hereby appoints the First American Bank, Riverside, Illinois, as the depository of record for the District 208 as presented in the April 24, 2018 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second.
I do have a question, Scott. So that's the
Impressed.
Impress account, right? That's at the and then the
Activity.
activity account, right?
Mhm.
Because the treasurer, remember, the township has their own
Yes.
banking, which we write checks against, correct?
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
Anything that comes from the district budget goes through the treasurer's office. Just Impress and the activity funds go through this First American.
All right, go for the vote.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Sierra?
Yep.
Mr. Smithing?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Gritchen?
Yes.
Matters are closed.
All right, so we get matters for close to discuss personnel, possibly student discipline, possibly purchase or lease of real property, possibly private, intimate, or pending litigation, possibly collective negotiations, and finally, school safety. Could we get somebody to read the resolution?
Resolved that the Board of
we do
Education,
that after
Township
the
High School
comments.
District 208, Cook County, Illinois, enters closed session for the purpose of considering appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, student discipline, purchase or lease of real property, probable imminent or pending litigation, collective negotiations, and school safety.
We don't.
Before we go and vote there,
Oh.
let's just ask if there's any opportunity before we can go into close. If anyone has visitors' comments, look to my left, no,
And were we
You
going to
also
do
have
our
to address
discussion?
Laura's item.
and now we can.
We were on a
Do
roll.
that now, or do we do that afterward?
We were on a
No,
roll.
no.
Okay,
It's like,
Yeah,
next page,
we're on a
next
roll,
page,
yeah.
next page.
All right, let's discuss it. So what's the issue, Laura?
Well, I wanted to thank administration for a wonderful prom. All the deans were out and the buses were here. I wanted to make public acknowledgement of how smoothly things ran here. Kids came back, said everything went well. My one concern was now at our school, but for, I guess, 75 years, our kids have gone to Blight School to take the pictures. And we have worked very hard in this school to build a relationship with our police officers, both from Riverside and Brookfield, with the kids and the families. And while they're taking pictures, the police officers are writing $90 tickets and giving it to the kids for parking. Here, hope this doesn't ruin your night. Hope this doesn't ruin your night. And I don't understand why we got kids and families at Blight Park in the courtyard, just beautiful day, celebratory time, families in the community, and for 20 minutes we couldn't work together with our our agencies, the Blight School didn't say, don't come here. This has been a tradition for 70 years. And we couldn't work with our police department, and we hand kids on prom $90 tickets because they parked.
Well, Laura, we didn't hand anyone $90.
No, but our police department did.
And secondly, my understanding of that is it's a voluntary thing that's not been organized by the school to go to Blythe Park. It's the students who voluntarily organize it themselves, who chose to go to Blythe Park. Some don't go to Blythe Park. I know for a matter of fact that some don't go to Blythe. I know it's a tradition that people go there, and students go there. But it's nothing that the school organizes.
No, but I think we as a school could say, we're trying to build relationships between our policemen and our students, and I just think it was unnecessary. I just don't think that was a necessary thing to do on that day. For those 5 minutes, parents, students.
As a board, there's not much we can do.
Yeah, there's not much.
We could ask Kevin to talk to Lane and see if he would be willing to talk to Chief Weitzel and say, come on, this is ridiculous.
I mean, we can express the distastefulness of it.
Yes, you have no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so distasteful.
You can
It's
express
celebratory
that.
of the school. We certainly can express that.
But I was there, I found a good parking spot, and if I lived in that neighborhood and people were parking in front of my driveway, like those kids were doing, half of their cars in people's driveways, double parking, I mean, it was, there are rules that these kids, they're, again, coming of age, they need to learn to follow the rules. And if it says don't park here, or you're parking over someone's driveway, that's illegal.
Those weren't all the tickets. There were just some on the sides of the street. People that don't live there don't know which side is parking or not. We're talking 15 minutes for people to run in and take a picture.
I mean, I agree it's unfortunate, but I don't think it's the board's place to get involved.
I think it was
either way.
distasteful, and I think it leaves a bad
It sounds
taste in the
distasteful, but-
kid's mouth.
It does, but I don't think it falls under the purview.
No, but, as one board member, I was disappointed, and I want my kids to respect the police officers, but when they hand a ticket and say, hope this doesn't ruin your night, that was inappropriate. That's not professional, it's inappropriate. They didn't have to say anything. They should just if they had to do tickets, they should have just left it there. So by handing the ticket to the student and saying that was vindictive, and I wanted to say something because I didn't think it was a nice way to treat the kids, and I thought all the kids really behaved well. They were lovely. It was a nice event. The school went above and beyond. So.
All right.
What do we do with the motion?
Now get a second.
I'll second
Do I have to read it
the
again?
motion on the closed
No, you don't
session.
have to read again. It's out there second. Okay, go for the vote.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Ms. Sierra?
Yes.
Ms. Smithson?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. All right, 5 minutes, 8 o'clock.
Yep.